Now that the war has begun in the Middle East, I've been thinking about the spiritual forces behind it and what it means for Israel's future. And as I contemplated these things, a passage from Daniel 10 came to my mind, and that is where I'd like to begin this podcast. Now, in the beginning of chapter 10, Daniel talks about a vision that he had, but doesn't at that time reveal its contents. Instead, he talks about the physical impact it had upon him, that of physical weakness and causing him to fall into a deep sleep. We know that he wondered about the contents of that vision, because of what we read beginning in verse 10 of Daniel 10, where we read, "And behold, a hand touched me and set me trembling on my hands and knees. And he said to me, O Daniel, man greatly loved, understand the words that I speak to you, and stand upright, for now I have been sent to you." And when he had spoken this word to me, I stood trembling. And he said to me, "Fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart to understand and humbled yourself before your God, your words have been heard, and I have come because of your words. The prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days, but Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I was left there with the kings of Persia, and came to make you understand what is to happen to your people in the latter days, for the vision is for days to come." Now, what do these verses, tell us about today? Well, first of all, they tell us that the opposition to Israel is still a spiritual matter. Now, notice it talks about this prince of the kingdom of Persia, which I believe, and I'm almost certain, is a demonic force. And it was so powerful back in Daniel's day that it was able to stop an angel that had been sent from God to Daniel and to hold him up for 21 days before the archangel Michael intervened and enabled him to get through to the prophet. And I believe that this demonic being, this powerful demonic creature, is still around today, because such creatures do not die, they do not pass away, they are still there. Now, if you're wondering what Persia has to do with Iran, we know that Persia really didn't change. Well, actually, Persia didn't change its name to Iran until March 21st, 1935. So from the time of Daniel and probably before that time until 1935, the country of Persia went by the name Persia and didn't change its name to Iran until that time. And we also know from Ephesians 6 that there are hierarchies of powers in the demonic realm, just as there are in the angelic realm, where we have archangels and angels under them. And this particular prince of the kingdom of Persia was quite powerful enough to stop the angel from getting through. And second of all, I believe that regardless of what happens in the current war in days to come, we know that this powerful demonic force will retain its opposition to the Jewish people. Now, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Is there going to be a regime change, or will those in power, although I'm hearing that a lot of those who were currently in power before today have now been wiped out. So it's really difficult to know what is going to happen. But still, I believe that Iran is still on a course to participate in the Gog-Magog war in the months or perhaps years to come. And that is because I believe that there are, probably three main factions of people within Iran today. First, there are the Islamic jihadists who are intent on destroying Israel and killing the Jewish people. And these people will remain even though all their leaders are destroyed, and even though there is regime change, they will still be there. And we also can tell by the number of demonstrations that have been held in Iran that a great number of Muslims really want to get rid of their current leadership. And from what I'm hearing, a lot of their current leadership has been killed, but we don't yet know what that'll mean for the future of Iran. And of course, there's also a large contingent of believers. A few years ago, some estimated that this group consisted of 1 million people, 1 million believers. And so it could be even more than that. And so going forward between now and the rapture, you have these three factions in Israel. And if a more benevolent regime towards Israel takes hold in the days to come, we still have this Islamic faction that will be in Iran and will be capable of mounting an opposition to Israel in the days to come. Now, it's very interesting as we look at the Gog Magog invasion of Ezekiel, chapters 38 to 39, because it's primarily a land invasion, which means that these forces are going to come against Israel from, of course, the land. And so that has me wondering if this current war wipes out the nuclear capabilities of Iran and wipes out their missile capabilities, as well as that of some of their proxies, such as the Houthis in Yemen, in the Hezbollah in Lebanon, then it seems as though there will be a land invasion. And that fits right with what Ezekiel chapters 38 to 39 tell us. I don't know what that means for Russia as to why they would join in a land invasion along with Turkey and Iran. But that is what we read in Ezekiel 38. And I believe that's going to happen sometime after the rapture, probably before the Antichrist sits his agreement with Israel. But there are many different opinions, and that's just what I believe. And so it will be a land invasion. And so what does that tell us about Israel? What does that tell us about their future? Well, we see from the end of the tribulation period, we know that a remnant of the Jewish believers will turn to Jesus in saving faith. They will recognize that Jesus is their Messiah, and they'll trust in him for their salvation, for their deliverance. When all other options have expired, have gone by the wayside, they'll realize that he and only he can preserve them, can save them from the last gasp of Antichrist and give them the kingdom that is promised to them in the Old Testament. You see, right now, Israel is depending on their military might in the United States and its military might. And I believe that God has this in place for a purpose because, of course, we know that Israel is basically in unbelief at this time. There are a large number of believers there, and of course, there are many who hold to the Judaic faith, but still, as far as Jesus goes, most of the people are in unbelief, but yet God is protecting them, and he's using their military might in our military might in America to protect them. And I believe that's God's purpose for now. But as we move forward, we see that when we come to the Gog-Magog war, that it's not their military might that protects them, and it's not America's military might that protects them, but it's God himself, that he intervenes when things look totally hopeless for the people of Israel. The Lord is going to intervene and save them. He's going to wipe out the invading forces, and he's also going to attack the homeland of those invading forces. And so you would think that at that time, Israel would recognize that God is their only hope for salvation, for their only hope of deliverance from danger. But it doesn't appear that that'll be the case, especially if the Gog-Magog war happens before the Antichrist forms his covenant with Israel, or even early in that period, because even though some in Israel may recognize God's hand, they still will be looking for Antichrist to protect them. They still will go with this agreement. And of course, we all know what happens then, that halfway through the 7-year tribulation, Antichrist is going to turn on them, is going to seek to kill them, and they're going to flee for their lives. And so by that time, they'll have learned that their deliverance, that their salvation is not going to come through their military might or through the military might of others. They will have learned that it will not come from powerful leaders such as Antichrist, but it'll only come from the Lord. And we'll see that by the end of the tribulation, they will recognize that. And so, although we don't know for sure all the things that are going to happen between now and the end of the tribulation, although this war seems to have gotten off to an amazing start, with reports that even Khomeini has been killed, although that's still waiting to be 100% verified, it's remarkable. But we do not know for sure all the things that will happen, but we know some things for sure. We know that Israel is going to be saved. We know that God is working through all the things that are happening to them to eventually teach them that their salvation can only come through the Lord Jesus. And that is what they'll recognize by the end of the tribulation period. So God has his hand in this. It's a battle between God and Satan, really, because Satan is energizing the forces of Iran. He's making them blind to common reason, and has them thinking that they can actually prevail in a war where they cannot prevail. But as we wait to see, we know that God is in charge, and Satan will try to thwart God's prophetic purposes in saving this Jewish remnant, establishing his kingdom on earth that will include a gloriously restored kingdom of Israel. That's where everything is headed. Satan is doing all he can to stop it, but he will not be able to do so. So thank you so much for enduring with me in this, my first attempt at a prophecy update. And I just say God bless, and I'll see you again in the future. Thank you so much.